Number one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Wednesday night edition of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. Great to have you with us. Temperature down a little bit. We're not scorching like we were last couple of weeks. I mean, look, it's still kind of warm out there, but maybe the guys are getting a little bit of a break as they go through practice. The guys and the gals got soccer teams and other sports teams that are practicing for the winter season. I guess we call it the winter season, the fall and winter season, I guess. So best to everybody, and I hope you're handling things okay. And we check off today, and things really start to heat up tomorrow. Tomorrow over at USC, it's going to be another media day. We'll hear from Shane Beamer, players as well. Clemson will have their traditional day before the first day of practice weigh-in tomorrow. Always a big thing up at Clemson where the guys step on the scale and they report what everybody's weighing. Not something I care to have made public, but these guys don't mind letting you know they're 330 pounds on a 6'5" frame. So that'll be tomorrow. And we'll have it all covered for you. And then practice begins for South Carolina and Clemson on Friday. The Gamecocks in the morning. Be there for that. Then we'll head up to Clemson. Dabo Swinney will meet with the media in the afternoon. And then the Tigers will practice after that. So we'll have sports talk from up at Clemson with coverage of those practices on Friday. Meantime, today, Coastal Carolina got on the practice field for the first time with their new head coach, Tim Beck, and their old veteran quarterback, something we won't say very much in the years to come, old veteran quarterback, because let's face it, quarterbacks and players are going to come and go on a regular basis with the way the rules are now. But Grayson McCall back at Coastal Carolina for another year. People have had him leaving Coastal for I don't know how many years because of the ease of transferring, because, they're saying you can go somewhere else and you can play big time. Well, you know what? He's always said to us when we've had him on the show repeatedly that he's a Coastal guy, and that is where he wants to be and where he wants to finish. Even though, he lost his coach, he stayed and welcomed the new coach and is working with him. Chris Bergen is with us now from the Bergie Palace. He was over at Coastal today to take it all in as they hit the field for the first time.
A redshirt senior who has spent his entire career at Coastal. It is to be commended, Phil. We spend so much time chatting about the transfer portal, John, and players not happy at one place, let's transfer XYZ times and find somewhere else to go. And Grayson actually explored that, obviously, during the offseason after Jamie Chadwell decided to go to Liberty and take the job there. And Tim Beck had constant conversations with him, and to his credit, and Tim Beck will be the first to tell you that was the best recruiting job he did all offseason, is getting Grayson back out of the transfer portal. And he's added about 20 pounds of what he classified last week at Sunbelt Media Days as good weights. He looks great out on the practice field. Tim Beck couldn't say enough good things about him today. And I will say this, Phil, about the weather. If it took Coastal Carolina hiring Tim Beck to get an 80-degree day with no humidity here in South Carolina, I wish they had hired him 21 years ago when they started the program, because it was insane how nice it was out there. I stopped by and watched Sockasty High School practice this morning, and I was joking with some folks over there. Same thing at Coastal. I mean, you don't get these kind of days August 2nd much in our state, especially along the Grand Strand, and Coastal took full advantage of it today for sure.
Okay, that's good. We'll hear from Coach Beck, and you've got some players we'll be hearing from later on. We're going to get to Tyler Davis, Clemson defensive tackle, tonight as well. And today over at South Carolina, of course, the basketball team is leaving tomorrow for the Bahamas, a great vacation for the basketball team, 6 days in the Bahamas, August 3rd through the 8th. They'll play 2 basketball games, one against a team from Lithuania and one against a team from Argentina. And they had an open practice, more or less, for the media today. We got to watch a good bit of the Gamecocks working out, mostly half-court stuff, mostly drills. But we put some video up on our website. We talked to Lamont Paris after it was over, so we'll bring you that as well. So we got all that going on. And late this afternoon here, guys, things are taking a turn related to conference expansion on 2 fronts. Now you've got reporting by Yahoo.com that the Big Ten is possibly going to expand to 18 or 20, taking Oregon and Washington. If they go to 18, they go to 20, taking Oregon and Washington and Cal and Stanford from the Pac-12, which, of course, is already losing Southern Cal, UCLA, probably going to lose Arizona, Arizona State, and others, and will be left with nothing. So that is happening. And then later this afternoon comes out the word. This is from Brett McMurphy, quoting Florida State trustee Drew Weatherford, quote, "It's not a matter of if we leave the ACC, but how and when we leave." And then a follow-up from McMurphy, Florida State President Richard McCullough, quote, "We are not satisfied with our current situation. We love the ACC. Our goal to stay in the ACC, but to stay in the ACC under current situation is hard for us to figure out how we remain competitive unless there is a major change in revenue distribution." End of the quote. So the clouds are forming over the ACC and the what's left of the Pac-12. The clouds are forming. The wolves are circling, and they're ready to chomp down, Chris. They're ready to eat what's left of the Pac-12 and what's left of the SEC. Now, if the Big Ten is focusing on an infusion from the Pac-12, well, that would mean, of course, the obvious destination for the ACC schools that feel like bolting would be the SEC. Now we're talking about, once again, super conferences, maybe conferences of 20 or more teams. And I don't know what would happen after that. And, of course, you got the Big 12 out there, which is willing to take on refugees in this world as well. So where does Clemson follow Florida? Who's the leader here? Is it Florida State? Is it Clemson? Certainly, if Florida State is publicly saying this, then Clemson's got to be feeling the same thing.
It's interesting that the president of the university would come out and make some things like we're one of the best media valued teams in the United States. We, along with Clemson and others, help to carry the value of media rights in the ACC. Then, of course, he goes on to, here comes the but. No offense to my colleagues, but that's just the numbers. And my question is, where was all this anarchy and the gnashing of teeth when the ACC schools all got together and signed the grant of rights deal that binded them together? They were all happy-go-lucky. They were going to form the alliance, remember, with the Big Ten and all this stuff, and everything was going to be hunky-dory through 2036. Have they forgotten about all of that stuff now that they see, well, maybe that wasn't the best deal that we signed? Well, no one forced you to sign this when you signed it at the time. But I will say this, if Florida State is already out in front of this trying to push for more money, the ACC has 2 things to do. One, you just have to find a way that you pay Florida State and Clemson based off their football revenue more than anybody else, because they have been the bell cow in your conference for the last 2-3 decades, or get ready to lose both of them somewhere. I'm not sure where. And the question is, does Florida State have a landing spot? When you make these comments, you would think they've got somebody in the back pocket. You don't normally start talking about your new head coach unless you already have somebody in mind, right? If they're already making comments about they're ready to get out of the ACC, and it's not if, it's when and how, it would lend me to believe either they've already got confirmation from the SEC or the Big Ten or the Big 12, somebody, that they can go when they are ready to leave the ACC.
What surprises me about all this ACC talk is you hear very little from North Carolina. Now, I know that North Carolina hasn't been a championship-level football team. They did play for the ACC championship last season. They are a major institution and I have to give them they used to be a great academic institution. I guess they still are, except for the fraud that they had in their athletic program that went unpunished by the NCAA for who knows what reason. We all know there was fraud there. Does that diminish the overall academic standing of the university? No, I don't think so. I mean, it's still a great academic university. I'll give it that. And it's a big-time athletic program with a lot of national championships. And, of course, we all know about the basketball program. The baseball program is extremely strong. But why is North Carolina not – and, of course, they were one of the founders of the ACC, like Clemson. But, of course, everybody believes the ACC was built around the Tar Heels and around the North Carolina schools. Why do we not hear more from North Carolina about the ACC in this situation? Why are they not more out front about, guys, we got to hold this thing together. Here's what we can do, blah, blah, blah. Or we're bolting as well, and we're going to go to the SEC or the Big Ten or something like that. I would think that a major program like North Carolina would have more to say publicly than what we're hearing.
It's a great point, unless you're concerned that some of your comments may be misconstrued when you turn around and you bolt for another league as well. Their silence may speak volumes. Maybe they're thinking the same thing, but hey, if Florida State wants to go out there and put all these comments on social media and be out in front of all of this, go ahead, Tallahassee. We'll sit back and watch, and we'll just quietly behind the scenes work our own deal somewhere else. Because I'm like you, if there's anybody in the ACC that you would think would want to keep everything together, it would be North Carolina and Duke and NC State and Wake Forest, sort of right there in the middle of the conference. But, yeah, their silence from Chapel Hill may speak a whole lot louder than the volume we're hearing right now from down in Tallahassee.
And I got to believe, too, that, if Clemson and Florida State are like, okay, we'll stay. They had that agreement. I thought they had an agreement coming out of the spring meetings. Did they not put out a statement? Did they not have an agreement that – they're going to stay and they're going to get a bigger piece of the football TV pie because or it's going to be based on your success, assuming, right. Clemson and Florida State are going to be the most successful. They're going to get the biggest. But then in flipping it around, do North Carolina and Duke get the bigger piece of the basketball TV pie? I know it's not as big as the football, but because they're the more successful basketball programs in the league, do they get a bigger piece? Or maybe Virginia, with where they are in basketball, do they get a bigger piece of the basketball pie? Is the playing field kind of leveled out that way from a payment standpoint?
That's a really good question. I don't know how they're going to do that. I think you obviously, to placate Florida State and perhaps Clemson as well, you've got to make sure that the football money drives the bus and gives them a whole lot bigger share than the basketball monies would, because I don't think Florida State and Clemson could survive on just, and I'm using that term loosely because the amount of money we're talking about is ridiculous and everybody should be happy, but this is where we are. But I'm not sure that either one of those schools would stay in the ACC just based off their basketball revenue.
All right, our phone number is 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. And since 2002, more than $6 billion in lottery proceeds have been used to support South Carolina educational programs. Learn more about the lottery's impact at seducationlottery.com/education wins. And playing for fun is a win for education. Love to get your thoughts on everything that we're talking about here, because it's starting to come home to roost once again in our own backyard. You know who's sitting back and just enjoying all this are the SEC schools like South Carolina. You don't see any of the SEC schools thinking about bolting to the Big 10 or the Big 12 or anything like that. They're as happy as a pig in slop with what they've got. Now, they're not getting as much money as what the Big 10 schools are going to get with their new TV contracts, but the difference isn't so great that they're uneasy about it. The difference between like the Big 12, $31 million a team, and the Big 10 right now is $51 million a team, and that's large, but I guess the Big 12 kind of feels like they can live with it. But now, what the Pac-12 was thinking, or the Pac-10 or whatever they're down to now, what they were looking at getting from this deal that their commissioner presented earlier this week was about $20 million per team from Apple. Some Apple streaming service was going to handle their TV contract to start out at about $20 million a team. and they don't feel like they can compete. They don't feel like they can survive on that in today's environment. And of course, you know what the ACC teams are getting about. What is their thing? About 30 million a team, 37 million a team, I think it is. Well below what the the SEC and the Big Ten teams are getting under their current structure. But I mean, I guess that would that increase if you're Clemson and Florida State, for example? Are they going to get? I think what I've read here from the Florida State people in particular, because they're the ones who are speaking, is that what they get from this new deal is not going to be so great as to make that much of a difference to them when it comes to comparison to, say, the Big Ten.
It's just almost hard to fathom that we're not parsing out, thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking millions and millions of dollars that Florida State is getting currently, and it's still not enough. And the reason you don't hear any SEC schools complaining about their deal and wanting to get out, Phil, is because as soon as one of them were to leave, there are 4 or 5 universities ready to take their place in a heartbeat. You don't step out of line when you're in the front-running car. You stay in the pack, and you're happy. And I don't know why any SEC school wouldn't be.
Absolutely, Pat. What you got?
Another developing story that broke about an hour or two ago now out of Middle America. You guys remember a few months ago we spent a lot of time talking about players and coaches and gambling in college, 2 of which were surrounding Iowa and Iowa State, but it was a pending investigation. Well, charges have come down today. Gambling investigations at Iowa and Iowa State have now resulted in criminal charges against 7 current or former athletes, with the 2 highest named profile players being ex-Hawkeyes basketball player Aaron Olis, who's now at Nebraska, and Cyclones starting quarterback. This will be his second year as the starter, Hunter Deckers. They're the 2 that have the strictest charges against them. Let's see. Deckers has been accused of betting on events, including multiple football games of his Iowa State Cyclones, including multiple of that. Now, if you go back, the more you read on this story, the deeper it gets. Some of those were final possession type games where the last drive or 2 of the ball game made you either cover or not cover the spread. The affidavit released today has approximately 366 bets placed by Deckers, totaling $2,799 to a DraftKings sportsbook account linked to Deckers, including 26 on Iowa State sporting events. Not sure how many of those are games that he played, but the biggest profile of those games was a game on October 23rd last year where Iowa State played Oklahoma State, and that the final score was 24-21 with some scores right there at the end. The basketball player Aaron Olis may place nearly 2,000 sports bets on the app FanDuel, totaling just under $35,000. He did that under a fake name of Anton Porter. That's awfully close to his real name. And at least one of those bets is believed to be on an Iowa game, which again was the team he was playing at that time.
Wow.
So does
Iowa,
it matter
of all
if they
places, Iowa getting hammered for gambling?
Not much else to do there.
Iowa and Iowa State, yeah.
But does it matter? I guess it does, especially considering the Deckers kid wasn't old enough to actually place a legalized bet. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I read he actually bet on his own team. That was what Pete Rose always claimed, right? He didn't ever bet against the Reds. So I guess it really doesn't matter. So, but to Pat's point about some of those games being close down the stretch, I'm not sure he was point shaving if you're betting on your own team to cover, right?
I don't know. How would that work when you want to, if you're trying to influence the outcome of a game and you're betting on your team to win? It all depends on the spread, I guess. If you're betting on them to win, then it depends on if they're the favorites.
You're betting on the spread, right?
Yeah. He might have bet on them to lose, though, too. Could have been the other way. Maybe the other team scored a touchdown late. The spread was 4.5. Suddenly they're only down 3. Well, now they need to score again to get back to the other side of the 4.5. So it kind of depends on if you're betting against your team or for your team, I suppose.
Yeah, again, it depends on if you're taking the points or laying the points. I mean, in your conscience, you're like, okay, I led them to the victory, but I also won my bet because I gave the points, but we won by an amount where I could win by giving the points, but we still won the game. You follow me? So we didn't cover the spread. But we won the game, and I cashed in, So, all right, got to hit a break here. I'm trying to figure this out as we think, but, that's how this thing could work. but they're cracking down on this aspect of life, which, it's so easy for people to get their hands on a betting situation. Now you wonder how many more people are going to get stung by this. Be back in a moment.
Dumpster Plus is your solution to a more cost-effective and professional work site. Dumpster Plus provides a roll-off dumpster and porta-john in one. Give them a call at 803-500-5094 and ask them about 2 services for the price of one. It's 1 call, 1 delivery, 2 services. Locally owned and operated in Columbia, and that means you'll talk to a real live local person, ready to get what you need with a 24-hour turnaround guaranteed. Whether your worksite is residential or commercial, big or small, near or far, you'll save money with Dumpster Plus. Waste management solutions never look so good. Call Dumpster Plus at 803-500-5094. That's 803-500-5094 for Dumpster Plus.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Morgan. I want to tell you about an exciting new product from my friends at Vision Air Solutions. Staying healthy in my line of work is so critical, and probably in yours as well. A large factor in all that is making sure we're breathing in healthy and safe air every day. That's where Vision Air Solutions comes in. They make sure your home has air purification for all the air pollution you can't see. Viruses, mold, bacteria, stale odors, cooking smells, and volatile organic compounds. They make sure your home is full of clean air and also offer HVAC duct cleaning and sanitation as well. Make sure you and your family are breathing clean air today by giving Vision Air Solutions a call today. 803-220-1811. That's 803-220-1811. Tell them Mike sent you.
Hi, this is Major Billy Downer, and coming up tonight at 7:30, it's another edition of SC Wow from the Department of Natural Resources on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company and then talking to you and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you. I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
It all builds up to this at Darlington Raceway.
If you're going to kick off the playoffs, why not do it big?
Green flag is up.
Like Labor Day weekend big.
That's how you make a move. And around goes Truex.
Like Southern 500 big.
Yeah!
The only thing bigger than the action will be the experience of seeing it live. NASCAR playoffs weekend at Darlington Raceway, September 2nd and 3rd. Get your tickets today at darlingtonraceway.com. Discover South Carolina.
If you're looking to stay hydrated this summer, turn toward a southern favorite, sweet South Carolina watermelons. One slice is equivalent to a glass of water and is just as effective as sports drinks for hydration. If you don't believe us, you can ask the Palmetto State's top football teams. The SC Watermelon Association will be serving up slices after summer practice to keep our teams fueled and hydrated. Visit scwatermelon.org for all the details and look for ripe South Carolina watermelons in your hometown.
Have you turned on the fun? Try Cash Pop from the South Carolina Education Lottery. Pick one number from 1 to 15, win up to $2,500, or play all 15 numbers, and you're guaranteed to win. Play twice a day to double your fun. It really is that easy. Visit sceducationlottery.com to get the details. Cash Pop. It's the light of the party.
Yeah, you know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, you know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, you know what it is. Everything I do, yeah, I do it.
All right, quick little break here before we hit another break. But just going back to what we were talking about, the gambling situation out there. You were talking about how he was doing it underage. I mean, it's so easy to get your hands on gambling tools now, right? They're accessible.
Your phone?
On your phone, on your laptop, and you don't have to do it with overseas, in Russia or China anymore. Do it right here with outlets in America, so you can see why these kids might get into some trouble doing this, and probably more are going to come forward.
It's made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Cooler temps than usual for early August. We'll have a low this evening dipping to 69. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies at a high of 85. There's a 40% chance of some storms in the afternoon and around dinner time. For Friday, mid-80s again as a high temp, but rain likely on and off throughout the day. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Why just talk about something? Why not just do it? I went online to dominionenergy.com/SC, signed up on the Save Energy tab to have these folks come on out, haul away my old refrigerator for free. Oh, and by the way, they paid me $50 to do this. It was easy. They showed up on time, threw the old fridge on a cart, they hauled it away. I didn't have to do a thing except sit and wait for my check. A couple weeks later, I got my check, made space getting rid of an old appliance I wasn't even using. It's that simple. Go to dominionenergy.com/SC. Sign up today.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Russian drones have hit a Ukrainian port city along the border with Romania, causing significant damage and a huge fire at facilities that are key to Ukrainian grain exports. Russia has hammered the country's ports with strikes since halting a deal that allowed Ukrainian shipments to world markets through the city of Odessa. In the past 2 weeks, dozens of drones and missile attacks have targeted the port of Odessa and the region's river ports, which are being used as alternative routes. The gunman who stormed a synagogue in the heart of Pittsburgh's Jewish community and killed 11 worshipers will be sentenced to death. A federal jury recommended Wednesday 50-year-old Robert Bowers be sent to death row for perpetrating the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 348 points. The NASDAQ dropped 310. More details at srnnews.com.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
The pipes burst, you're getting the repairs done. Now it's time for your flooring. This is where the flooring department shines. We don't have a huge multi-million-dollar showroom, but we all buy from the same manufacturers. So why pay more? We're locally owned and have 30 years experience in the flooring industry, and we stand by our work. Get tremendous customer service and great pricing with the flooring department, 951-3567, or online at theflooringdepartment.com. That's 951-3567 or 951-FLOR, the flooring department.
It's not quite football season yet. The back-to-school sales are here, and it's time for you to help Columbia Animal Service to clear the shelters. For the entire month of August, adoptions are absolutely free. You can't beat that. Bring home a pooch or a kitty at no cost. Be the hero to give a dog or cat a new home. Visit PetFinder.com today to see your next family member. Clear the shelters in August. Free adoptions. Visit PetFinder.com and support Columbia Animal Services.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to FutureScholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. FutureScholar.com.
Hi, this is Kevin Cohen. The Point is a unique radio station. We don't have a bunch of huge corporate sponsors, and we're not a part of a local group of 5 or 6 corporate radio stations. We're a locally owned and locally operated station. In fact, we're a family. We think community first. We're all about local. And if you're a small business owner, well, it'd be my honor to sit down with you, talk about growing your business with the help of The Point. If you've never considered radio advertising, well, it works, especially talk radio. Our listeners trust us. They trust and they support our advertisers. You'd be surprised just how affordable running some ads on The Point can be. So let me put something together, a customized package that fits your needs, your budget. I'm not corporate. I'm just Kev. Call me, 563-8558, or email me at kev@makethepointradio.com. That's 563-8558, or my email address, kev@makethepointradio.com. Let's sit down. Let's talk about partnering up. Let's talk about seeing if we can grow together.
It all builds up to this at Darlington Raceway.
If you're going to kick off the playoffs, why not do it big?
Green flag is up.
Like Labor Day weekend big.
That's how you make a move. And around goes Truex.
Like Southern 500 big. The only thing bigger than the action will be the experience of seeing it live. NASCAR Playoffs weekend at Darlington Raceway, September 2nd and 3rd. Get your tickets today at darlingtonraceway.com. Discover South Carolina.
Going to hear from Coastal Carolina head coach Tim Beck coming up in just a moment or two. A couple of other things to talk about tonight, as some things are happening as we speak. More news. Oh, first of all, I guess this should be more important. Former Gamecock defensive line coach Jimmy Lindsey, who is now at LSU, stepping away because of a personal health matter. Brian Kelly announced that tonight. John Jancic is moving to defensive line. The statement from LSU is that, that's basically it. Prayers are with Coach Lindsey and his family. He had to be taken away from the facility yesterday in an ambulance. EMS was called to the facility yesterday down in Baton Rouge. So certainly wish Jimmy Lindsey the best with whatever it is he's dealing with there. And then we have the story here from the NCAA, ESPN on the NCAA, and that is the NCAA announced it's crafting detailed rules for NIL compensation. And all athletes soon will be eligible for injury insurance after they leave school. D1 Board of Directors directed the D1 Council, they have too many boards and councils in the NCAA, to deliver a proposal in October to regulate the way athletes can make money off their fame. Now, how are you going to do that? I mean, that just flies in the face. The word regulate, you can't use the word regulate, can you? The NCAA, not unless Congress gives you some sort of status that you can do that. The NCAA lifted its ban on NIL compensation in 21, has been operating with an interim policy that broadly bans pay for play. Right. And recruiting. They're banning. Hey, Chris, the NCAA bans pay for play and recruiting inducements. Did you know that?
Gosh, I guarantee that means every school will stop doing that right now.
I mean,
that's the end of it, right?
I'm sure coaches and boosters are fessing. They're calling the NCAA. I did it. I did it.
Sorry, we didn't realize.
They
won't let it happen again.
Talking about creating a registration process for agents and financial advisors who wish to represent athletes and booster-funded collectives and develop a standardized contract for NIL deals and establish disclosure requirements for athletes and collectives or companies that provide NIL compensation. So, we were talking about some transparency in this whole deal. Now, they are calling, apparently, for some transparency in all of this. So let's see where this leads. The NCAA is just raising their hand and saying, we're here too. Don't forget about us. But let's see if they have any bite to their growl there. All right. Down at Coastal Carolina, where the sun always shines, on the teal turf. It's kind of weird. This was the first. I mean, I know there was spring practice, okay, and that counts. But this is when you're a new coach, your first fall practice, your first preseason camp practice, that's special. No more Jamie Chadwell. He's, did a fantastic job. He's moved on. It's now in the hands of Tim Beck, a guy that Joe Moglia, I'm maybe kind of pretty much handpicked to be the successor. You believe that? Okay.
Yes.
And today was his day to lead his troops the first time.
Yeah, and ironically, Phil, not on the teal turf. They actually practiced on the practice fields, which have green turf and then also green grass. And Tim Beck talked a good bit about this first go around. Hey, everything is new. With the entire staff is new. It's our first fall camp. So he had a lot of good things to say, but it's fairly obvious that keeping Grayson McCall upright and healthy is priority number one. As Coastal opened up preseason camp today, here's head coach Tim Beck.
Yeah, it was great practice today. I mean, how could it not be? You got a beautiful day in a beautiful city with a bunch of great guys. I love playing the game, and I was really impressed. Our guys worked hard. Everybody's healthy, so it was a great day.
Coach, over the last couple of years, obviously Grayson has been the key to what this offense hopes to do, but trying to keep him healthy has been the key. What do you do from an offensive standpoint to maybe limit some of the things he's been doing that decisions to get hurt to try to keep him on the field for all 13 games this year?
Yeah, no doubt. He's definitely the key to Coastal. I mean, right? Let's just call it what it is. I mean, his leadership, his playmaking ability. So we just got to be smart in how we use him, what we do, what we call. I think we take that all into consideration. He's had a great offseason. He's put on 20 pounds. He's looks good, feels good. Tells me it's the best he's felt in probably since high school, strongest. So he feels really good, and he's had an injury-free offseason. And so I'm excited, and he had a great day today.
Related to Grayson and you being a quarterback yourself and a quarterback's coach in the past, what's the one thing you're working with him the most in terms of getting him to improve on?
I think just overall study and knowledge of defense, right? Coverages and why people do what they do, right? Just a better understanding of the game. If we all, as people, understood why we do what we do, we got a better chance of being successful at doing it. So that's been the biggest thing, Coach Trickett, myself. We've just tried to school them up in those areas.
Coach, on the flip side, one of the things about football is playing complementary football with good defense, good offense. How is the defense looking so far, and what's it looking as the program progresses?
Yeah, the first day, obviously, I was impressed. Our communication was really good. I think we're bigger and stronger and faster than we were when we started, and it's helped. We've got quite a few transfers that came in, providing depth, providing competition, and so guys are challenging for jobs, and so it's going to be an interesting fall camp.
Coach, the biggest difference in the time you've been here from the time you stepped on campus to now, what's been the biggest thing that you felt like you feel more comfortable about, that you know a little bit more about the job and about what Coastal football is?
Every day I'm learning something, right? So I don't know that the learning curve is ever going to stop. The people here have been awesome and welcoming, and I can't thank everybody enough for everything they've done for me, for our family, and for these kids, But knowing our guys, I remember the first day out here, I'd have a numbers list, who's who, who's playing what position. I'd make a play. I'm like looking down, 38, who's that? I'm like trying to figure out who. Oh wait, that's a white shirt. I got the black shirt guy. Now I know them, right? It's much easier to help keep my eyes up, coach, call them out by name, that type of stuff. So that's been the biggest change for me.
What's been the biggest change in terms of, obviously, first day of fall practice, just for you getting as a head coach now instead of an assistant? What's been the biggest adjustment for you as a head coach?
Kind of like I talked about earlier, just everything that this staff and support staff goes through is for the first time. This was our first fall camp, right? Ever together, all together. It's our first fall camp with our players, right? Now they got meetings and rest time and coach, where are we going to eat? What time are we eating? Like all that stuff's all new. They've never done it. And so there's a certain level of anxiety with the guys trying to figure everything out for the first time, and for the coaches. First time I'm with a lot of these guys as guys on staff or support staff. And so every day it just gets easier and smoother, but today it ran really well. I was impressed. Everybody did just an outstanding job, got our guys ready to play. We had a great offseason. Coach Quinn and staff got them in shape, and we were healthy today, and so it's a good day.
Dovetailing off of that, with your experience as an assistant coach all these years, how will you measure progress here through fall camp now as a head coach, since you know what to expect at other places?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is just improve. We got to continue to improve, right? On offense, we got to protect the football. We got to continue to learn our stuff, our schemes. We got to continue to make big plays, and we chart all that. We kind of keep those things as running to see how we do. On defense, it's tackling. We got to be a great tackling team. We got to create turnovers, right, to get the ball back for the offense, right? They're all kind of, no kidding, coach. Like, that's the key to the football. But really, for us, we make it harder than it is. It's blocking, tackling, throwing, catching, since they've been doing since they were 5 years old. We just got to continue to get better at it, and it makes them more confident to be able to execute.
And Coach, one of the other things, about this team is also there's a lot of veteran guys on the team, obviously McCall, Sam Pinckney, a lot of guys on the offense. How does that help, with this first coaching year as coaching?
It's huge. I can't, say enough about having the presence of that leadership on offense in particular, but there are certain individuals defensively that provide that. There's not as many, but they're still as vocal, and it certainly makes things smoother, right? Because getting the buy-in from that leadership group, the players see it and say, okay, we're all in this thing, coach. They have the great pulse of our football team, and when they feel comfortable and ready to run through the wall for you, then they all are.
Coach, you said New Orleans, there was a lot more questions that you had to have answered. What's the biggest question you feel like you need to answer over the next couple of weeks that's going to help you?
Just defensively, right? Who's going to play, right? We have so many new players that have came in, providing that depth and that competition. It'll be interesting to see how all that plays out.
Okay, Coastal Carolina head coach Tim Beck. What did it look like as far as how he likes to run a practice? I know this was helmet and shorts, and they're going through acclimation. They won't really get down to the serious stuff for a couple of days. But just watching him run things, you notice anything different from the previous regime?
The little bit we got to see now, of course, as is the case at South Carolina and Clemson, most of practice is closed to the media, but the portions we got to see, he's back and forth across the different fields, and they are moving at a very high rate of speed. It's one thing that Sam Pinckney, a wide receiver, transferred from Georgia State into Coastal last season, a kid from Greenwood, and also Kennedy Roberts, who's one of the Outland Trophy Award, at least early nominees. They both pointed out that it runs and feels more like a pro practice, like they're getting them ready for the next level, and said they move at a high rate of speed throughout practice. So that would probably, and I didn't get to watch a whole lot of practice, under Jamie Chadwell either, so I don't have a big area to compare, but it just seems like that's probably the speed in between drills, if you will, is probably the biggest change.
All right, so they're off and running down there at Coastal Carolina, and going to be heading out to L.A. I mean, that's going to be a fun trip for everybody. I mean, it's a long trip, but you get to spend a couple of days there in Los Angeles. You get to go, and you in particular walk the sidelines of the Rose Bowl and take in all the facilities there. That's got to be kind of neat and something exciting to look forward to.
I am really looking forward to it. As a matter of fact, I've been out to Los Angeles a couple of times. I may be the only person or one of the few people in South Carolina that after this game will be able to say they have seen a football game at the Coliseum and also at the Rose Bowl. And I got to broadcast a basketball game from Pauley Pavilion. So, yeah, my broadcast career, certainly not worthy of it, but I've been blessed with some great opportunities, and this is going to be another one coming up in a month.
You are living the good life, as they say. All right, now let's turn our attention to Clemson for a little bit. Tigers had 7 players named to the preseason All-ACC team, which was announced today, and that leads the league, which you might expect. They're the preseason favorite to win the championship for a second consecutive year. And so the Tigers had 7 named to the team. Running back Will Shipley, all-purpose player Will Shipley, and he was the only Tiger named on the offense here. So on the defense, tackle Tyler Davis, linebacker Jeremiah Trotter, linebacker Barrett Carter, and specialist Will Shipley. And does that count for 7? I guess that's 7. Andrew Makuba at safety was also named. So I think that accounts for 7, I guess, different positions taken up by Clemson, because Shipley occupies 3 of them. Yeah. The preseason player of the year is Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. Jordan Travis, Florida State, finished 2nd, and Shipley finished 3rd in the voting for the player of the year. By the way, of course, our own Smitty, Matt Smith, was there at ACC kickoff, and he put his ballot in, and he had for his preseason ballot, he picked Florida State. to win the ACC. He picked Clemson second. He believes the gap between the Tigers and the rest of the league has shrunk. Still expects Clemson to be in the ACC title game. So you could have if Florida State and Clemson meet for the championship, it will be a repeat of a regular season game. So somebody will be going after some revenge. North Carolina, he had third, then Louisville, followed by Miami, Duke, Wake State, Pitt, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Virginia, and Boston College.
Read what he had to say about Boston College.
Yeah, Smitty said, I have nothing good to say about this program. Hopefully, they will see fit to quietly join the AAC at some point. That's Smitty for you. His all-ACC team, he had May at quarterback, Shipley at running back. He did put Antonio Williams in at one of the wide receiver spots. He had Tyler Davis, he had Trotter, he had Carter on his preseason team. He had Shipley as the return specialist there as well. So with that said,
I thought his player of the year was interesting too. He picked Tyler Davis potentially to be the player of the year, saying he doesn't expect him to be named the player of the year. But I thought his point about this was he'll be the most consistent week-to-week defender in the league. And it'll be the focus of every other team in the ACC's offensive game plan.
Well, he's going to draw a double team. He's going to draw a double team every game. Speaking of Tyler Davis, here he is when he spoke with the media last week at the ACC kickoff. He knows he's a big man with a big target on his back, attracting the attention of ACC offensive linemen everywhere. And here he is taking questions from the media.
Said, how does it feel to kind of surpass those guys and kind of be your own man out of nicknames that, again, come from legends in the program?
It feels great, just to be even considered with those guys in the same breath. They did legendary things there, but it feels amazing. It definitely feels amazing.
Going to go left side, Tyler, gentleman with his hand way in the air all the way towards the wall.
Hey, Tyler, Pete Yacodelli, Associated Press. What made you want to come back to Clemson?
Me, just knowing that I can maximize myself here. I got guys. Me and Root talked about it. That we got Coach Eason. Just got there, and we feel like we had one of our best years just being over here for 1 year. Then we got our strength coaches, Coach Basson, Dennis Love. Coach Dennis Love, he prepared me. My body never felt the way it felt ever since I've been there. So I just knowing all those and knowing all that, I said, why not? Why not have this chance to go win a natty? Knowing that I got the best linebacker duo, and got guys like JP, Sheridan, Nate Wiggins, RJ Mickens, AJ McCool back there in the secondary. Why not just go and have one of the best defense and go win a natty?
First row, right to your left. First row, left.
Dame Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coming back, kind of going off of that, coming back for this season and having one more ride with this team, just what you can say about the team over self at Clemson and how that's emphasized by the coaching staff.
The team, I'll say one thing about our team, we're very accountable. Like we're competitive and accountable, and we hold each other to that, and we try to compete every day against each other and try to just hold ourselves to our standard.
Tyler, we're going to go back to the young man to the right, fourth row.
Kenton Gibbs with Locked On ACC. One of the things that I saw utilized a lot was a lot more dropping 8 in the coverage last year, and you all still found ways to get home. I remember multiple times, at least 2 sacks against NC State with just rushing 3. What does your ability to generate pressure without additional guys adding in mean for this defense and this team overall?
It means a lot. We just dropping 3. That shows how much effort that we putting into our rush, and showing that we trying to get after the quarterback no matter what. No matter if it's 3, 4, 5, we really hungry to get a sack, and so it's a race to the quarterback. So I say that just showing how much effort that we care for each other.
Tyler, from the podium, I want to follow up on your natty comments. It's a popular question we like to ask here. Do you have to win a championship in order to call it a successful season?
I would say in my book, yes. We come here. That's one of our goals. We come here to graduate and win a championship and to leave better prepared as a man. So I'll say yes, to have a successful season, you have to win a championship of some sort.
That's a good note to end on. So how about you hand the microphone off to Cade, and we'll spend about 5 minutes with Cade, and our first arms have gone.
Okay, my bad. I should have cut that at that point. There you go, Tyler Davis talking to the media. I don't know that he is as dominant in the middle as, say, Dexter Lawrence was at Clemson, but he's pretty doggone close. I mean, he has stepped up in there, and he's definitely a guy that the center and the guard have to deal with on almost every snap. If not, he'll be a wrecking ball up front and getting into your backfield.
Well, and it makes it awfully difficult when you've got somebody that can just clog up the middle the way he can to run the football on them. And then it allows all the rest of the guys on defense, as he talked about, to get after the quarterback. And that's, I think, what makes Clemson's defense, its size, strength, and certainly its speed, makes it so good. And if they follow through on their head coach's preaching throughout the offseason heading into fall camp this week, if they improve on pass defense, look out. I mean, they're going to be extremely difficult to move the football on.
But, and the defense is for real. There's no question about it. The defense is going to keep them in ball games. But, I mean, just an indication of where Clemson has fallen off offensively is this vote for the preseason All-ACC team. And that is that they had only one player, two positions occupied, but only one player. That's Will Shipley. I mean, I can remember, days not too far back where Clemson would have half of the offense because they'd have the quarterback, they'd have a running back,
all the wide receivers,
they'd have a receiver or two. They'd have an offensive lineman maybe. This is an indication of what people think about their offensive talent right now. And you wonder if it's for real that their offensive talent has fallen off that much to where they're not recognized in this voting. What you got, Pat?
You hit the nail on the head, and I think we all can agree about the personnel at Clemson, but I think this also speaks to the elevated talent around the ACC, with Florida State now finally showing a bit of life. Miami is starting to show a bit of life under Chris DeBall. UNC under Mac Brown. We're starting to see Duke now. I mean, heck, who would have guessed Duke would win 9 games last year? Some people are circling that as a potential stumbling block out of the gate for the Tigers. My point here is, yes, I think we all can agree that the talent at Clemson, or the gap between Clemson and the ACC, has narrowed. I don't know yet if that's specifically towards a lack of talent at Clemson, or if it's more for an increased talent for the rest of the ACC, or some kind of combination of the two.
I should read these releases more closely. It wasn't until I was reading through it here a moment ago that it was, because I was thinking there was 7 actual players named to the preseason team, but it's only 5 players filling 7 spots.
Right.
You got one guy filling 3 spots, right? So it's really only 5. That's still the most, I think. I think the 5 were the most, were they not? So, but again, and it's only the one running back and nobody else on offense. So it's definitely a situation on the offensive side there where some people got to step up. It's as plain as that. And look, I think Will Putnam at center can be an all-league type center. I think Miller out at right tackle can be an all-league type right tackle. How good is Klubnik going to be? I think there's still some question marks about that. Yeah, he played pretty well. He played sensationally in the ACC championship game. But he played equally poorly against Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. Now, maybe it was too much too fast for him at that time. Now he's had all offseason to digest. He's working with a new coordinator who knows how to develop a quarterback with his kind of skills. Maybe he's going to flourish, and we're going to see it right out of the gate here against Duke.
Maybe so. And the only way, and certainly from what we heard from Clemson, both at ACC Media Days and probably even more particularly from Garrett Riley at the Clemson Media Day they had prior to, they feel like the moment and stage not too big. Similar things that we heard from when Trevor Lawrence took over as the starting quarterback there, and certainly when Deshaun Watson took over, they kept talking about the moment not being too big. Well, sounds like Cade Klubnik falls into that category. And I'm glad you brought up Will Putnam. Is he being overlooked as a guy who maybe should be on the preseason All-ACC?
Oh, I think he's a heck of a player. But I know one thing. They had better keep Klubnik healthy
There's no doubt.
Sprained ankle, high ankle sprain, or anything worse than that, if he's sidelined, I mean, who do you turn to at the quarterback position? I know they got bodies, but it is a severe drop-off after him, I would say. Hit the break, be right back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The move by market agency Fitch Ratings to downgrade the United States debt rating has startled Wall Street, lawmakers, and policymakers alike. The PNC Financial Services Group chief economist Gus Fauché says the Fitch downgrade of U.S. credit may have been a minor contributor to the down day on Wall Street today, but he doesn't think it'll have much of a long-term impact.
Once the downgrade happens, then that gets priced in pretty quickly. So I think that this is kind of a one-time event where maybe we see a small reaction in stock markets and bond markets, but I don't think it's going to persist over the longer run.
The Dow dropped 348 points in today's trading. Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas is condemning the latest indictment against former President Trump. Bob Agnew reports.
Senator Tom Cotton told Fox News after skimming the indictment, it seems like what he called something that you'd get from an MSNBC producer for a special on that channel. The indictment charges Trump with conspiracy to defraud the U.S. over his claims of election fraud, costing him the 2020 election. Senator Cotton notes the former president's words and actions following the election were all constitutionally protected. Trump supporters say a string of indictments, this one being the third, is designed to keep the former president from reclaiming the White House in 2024. Bob Agnew reporting.
The gunman who stormed a synagogue in the heart of Pittsburgh's Jewish community and killed 11 worshipers will be sentenced to death. A federal jury recommended Wednesday the 50-year-old Robert Bowers be sent to death row for perpetrating the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. A judge is scheduled to formally impose that sentence on Thursday. On Wall Street, again, the Dow down by 348 points, the Nasdaq dropping 310, with the S&P 500 index lower by 63. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Attention, your money is now controlled by the U.S. government.
Picture a world where your every purchase is monitored, tracked, and controlled by those in power to suppress the freedoms of those they see fit. My name is Jason Hansen. I become very focused on the impending rollout of the central bank digital currency. I've partnered with Advantage Gold to offer you a solution. Claim your free gold protection kit from Advantage Gold. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor.
Some nations that are already struggling fear price hikes after Russia exits a crucial wartime grain deal. We hear more from correspondent Charles de Ledesma reporting from London.
Egypt and some other lower-income Middle Eastern countries like Lebanon and Pakistan are worried about what comes next after Russia pulled out of the deal. They're already struggling with economic woes that have driven more people into poverty and fear rising food prices will create even more pain for households, businesses and the government bottom lines. Many have diversified their sources of wheat and there is enough of the grain to go round in the world at this point. But the end of the deal that allowed Ukraine's grain to flow during a global food crisis has created uncertainty about price hikes, a major driver of hunger. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Then here's tonight's forecast. Cooler temps than usual for early August. We'll have a low this evening dipping to 69. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies at a high of 85. There's a 40% chance of some storms in the afternoon and around dinner time for Friday. Mid-80s again as a high temp, but rain likely on and off throughout the day. Brian Leonard with your on-point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. I said to genius.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, well, you're back. We've got recruiting coming up for you here in a little bit. Stay tuned for that. SC Wild Night tonight with the Major Billy Downer at the bottom of the hour. Looking forward to having the Major with us. I'm sure he'll have a lot to talk about because with football here, you know that deer hunting season is coming up. And I think maybe some turkey hunting season, something like that as well. We'll get the lowdown from him on that and other topics on his mind when he joins us at the bottom of the hour. And in just a moment, some comments from USC basketball coach Lamont Paris. And did I mention we'll have recruiting? We'll have recruiting coming your way here in just a little bit as well. So we got all that for you. And a couple of other things to mention as we keep a watch on things heading up to the start of practice. Thursday, media days tomorrow for for South Carolina. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney on Friday, and then the teams will be off to practice. But big news out of NASCAR today, Chris, and I got to everybody take your cap off and turn to the east, face the sun, turn to the east, and tip your cap to the Swami of Sardis because you called it about Johnson and Canals, right? In the Hall of Fame.
I don't want to pat myself on the back.
Oh,
but it was
yes,
obvious.
you do.
Okay, yes, I told you, and I'm tired of being right about NASCAR. But when you saw Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals on the ballot together, there was no way those two weren't going to be the ones going in from the modern ballot. The only problem I have with this, because it was obvious, Johnson got 93% of the modern era ballot vote.
Mm-hmm.
Canals got 81%. All right, fine. Jimmy was the driver, so it makes sense. But he was on just 53 of the 57 ballots cast. All right, so he was not unanimous. Dale Earnhardt Sr., when he went into the Hall of Fame, was not a unanimous vote in. Neither was Richard Petty.
Now,
you
have to just laugh at that.
That's going to be my point. Halls of Fame don't lose credibility because of the people that are either in and shouldn't be or aren't in and should be. They lose credibility because of stupid stuff like that by voters who just want to be contrarians. Because you cannot tell me that Jimmy Johnson is not a unanimous Hall of Famer. And you certainly can't make the argument that Richard Petty, who won more races than anybody on the planet, was not a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer, and Dale Earnhardt Sr. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the four guys who did not have Jimmy Johnson on their ballots today ought to lose the opportunity to vote for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It's an embarrassment to that organization when you have a guy who's won 7 championships, won 5 in a row. How is he not unanimous?
I have no
How was
idea.
Richard Petty not unanimous?
Have no
How was
idea.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. not unanimous?
But then again,
this is nuts.
Why was it until Mariano Rivera that you had a unanimous
valid point
major leaguer into the Hall of Fame, voted into the Hall of Fame? I mean, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, just go down the list. Sandy Koufax, every one of them, none were unanimous until Rivera. So,
yeah,
you're right. I think some of them were just being stubborn. Some of them made a name for themselves by not doing it, and I guess maybe it's the same thing here in NASCAR. Pat, what you got?
Can't help but drop this in tongue-in-cheek. What about the 5 SEC media folks who voted Vanderbilt to win the SEC this year? Come
Maybe
on.
they're the same people, Pat. They may very well be the same people. Who knows?
Now, was it any coincidence, though, that happened in Nashville?
Oh, there you go.
You know, maybe they were just thanking the city of Nashville for giving them a good time at the honky tonks or something while they were there. And so they said, you know what? I'm going to vote Vanderbilt to win the championship. If Vanderbilt wins the championship, I will walk naked backwards from here to Nashville with a guitar on my back. if Vanderbilt wins the SEC championship this year, okay? You hear that, everybody? Naked, backwards, with a guitar strung across my back.
And I will follow you with a pooper scooper all the way myself.
For the
because
love
I
of
agree
God,
with you.
somebody
There's
beat
no way
Vanderbilt.
that's going to
That
happen.
means if you're following me and I'm walking backwards, you're getting the frontal view the whole way.
I'll follow behind both of you with one of Dumpster Plus's dumpsters with
There
a
we
porta-john
go.
in it.
Exactly. That's what I need instead.
We'll need that. We will definitely need that. I don't
by
think
the way, Donnie Allison also went into the NASCAR Hall of Fame today as well. So
I don't think I've ever been more confident in a speculative
with you.
suggestion than the one I just made about Vanderbilt. Okay, today over at USC, the basketball team practiced. We got a chance to watch a good bit of it. Didn't have a roster, and you truly need a roster because there's so many new faces, so many new players. If you don't know them by face, you wouldn't know who some of these guys are. But afterwards, head coach Lamont Paris came over. He doesn't like to give opening statements. He likes to get right to questions, and that's what we did.
How far ahead do you feel than you were at this point last year?
Significantly. I think we're so far ahead from last year. We've got 4, 5, 6 guys that were on a team last year that can help disseminate information from one guy to the next. They know terminology. They know what the expectation is. They know what the drills are. So, I mean, with that alone, we're so far ahead. And then I think from just a maturity standpoint, we had one guy on our whole team last year that had ever been a college basketball starter, and that was Hayden Brown. We got 7 this year. So in those two categories, aside differences in skill set or length or anything like that, I think we're significantly ahead of where we were a year ago.
This trip, in terms of what you can already do in the summer, do the new NCAA rules, this new trip, how much enhancement do you get in terms of practice time and obviously the 2 games?
Yeah, so when you have every 4 years, you can go on these foreign tours and you get 10 practices that go along with that. So today was one of those. So typically in the summer, you get 4 hours of basketball and then 4 hours of strength and conditioning. And then that ramps up in these practices. We can treat them like regular practices. So I think it's invaluable, the experience that the guys get, and just in terms of what real practice is going to look like. The workouts are just different than a real practice, and we had some real practices. I turned my volume up a little bit more in these practices, so it's good for the guys just to get a little bit of that in the summer anyway.
Also, it's invaluable when it comes to team bonding to go on a trip like this.
To me personally, there are a lot of things that go along with a trip like this. 90% of it involves the team bonding, in my own personal estimate. I hope we play well. I hope we play well for their sake, so that they'll feel good about themselves. To me, I mean, don't let this cat out of the bag, but I want to go down there and spend time with each other, and the travel of it and the trip and different roommates. It's the first time they'll be exposed to different roommates, and they'll be going down water slides and doing some snorkeling, I imagine, or whatever they're going to do. We're going to enjoy ourselves. They've been here working hard for 8 weeks, so part of it is that. Obviously, there's a big thing about the basketball is a huge part of it, but the biggest part to me is the growth that happens amongst teammates while you're on a trip like this.
As you kind of take stock before the trip, what have you liked about this group that you've seen over the summer, and what are some things that, as you kind of get back into it, or things that you'd like to see improve?
Basically, our competitiveness is one thing that I like, and really that's all it stands out that we're a significantly more competitive group, and therefore when I make challenges, people try to respond to those challenges based on just their competitive spirit, not a rule that we have in defensively, because I try to keep it simple in the summer also. We don't go through every single thing, but I'd say the biggest thing is just our competitive spirit, and then we got a lot of room for growth in a lot of areas. So I haven't really even evaluated that, but I have been really happy with our competitive spirit and as well, and how we communicate with each other.
I know last year you said you didn't have the personnel to necessarily do all the things that you like to do on the court. Do you feel like it's closer with this group assembled to be able to play the style of basketball that you would like to play?
Yeah, significantly closer to what I like. We're much more skilled, I think, from top to bottom. We're doing some different offensive things. A lot of read and react type situations that just, doesn't mean guys are better or worse players, but they're just in their DNA as a basketball player. I think we're a little more suited to do that based on our skill sets and even where some of these guys have come from. BJ Mack played came here from Wofford, and some of the stuff that they did there was similar to some of the things that I want to do offensively. So I think just in our guys' DNAs as players, we're suited a lot more to play the way that I want to play offensively.
When you talk about the way you want to play, how would you describe it? Like a term like up tempo, or run through the guards, run through the big man? Just how would you describe it?
Space, it sounds cool to say space and pace, but those I do value both of those things. And to me, pace is more in the half court, to be honest with you. It's not the pace at which we run from rebounding it down to score and get a shot in the first 6 seconds. I hope we can do that, but teams are good in this league. I don't know that you do that a whole lot, but the pace with which you cut, the pace with which you go to screen, the pace with which you attack the rim, I think that's pace to me. And so I want to space the floor. I like to have skilled guys in most positions. Skill doesn't always mean you can shoot. It doesn't mean we'll have 5 guys that can shoot the 3 at all times out there. There will be sometimes we do have 5 guys that shoot the 3. There'll be others that we don't, but they'll be skilled in that they feel comfortable stepping off on the perimeter, handling it, and making a decision or making a pass. That's skill to me. So that's the way I want to play. I like to do a lot of unscripted things. I like small, quick hitters versus long plays that are really long and tell a long story. Most of our plays are for situations and not for shots, and so I want guys just to be able to play freely.
Anyone in terms of injury-wise that's going to be limited or not play when you go down there?
Not really. I think everybody's in a pretty good spot from a health standpoint right now, so I'm just excited that my anticipation will be that every player will have some sort of story that involves basketball as we go down there. Everybody will get into the games, unless for whatever reason they don't want to. But, Bo Ryan is in the Hall of Fame, and he's probably forgotten more about basketball than maybe I'll ever know. But I remember we played Carrollton College or University, whatever it's called, in Canada one year, and they beat us. And this was a team that went to the national championship game, and they were good, and they beat us. And then the next 2 games that we played there, the starters got a lot of minutes in those games. And so I'm really interested in having everybody be a part of this experience. Aside from the stories that they'll have on the beach and in the water slides, I want them all to have a basketball story as well. So I'll be committed to trying to get everybody to have some significant minutes in the game.
Of your returning guys, anybody really stand out in your mind who's really stepped it up from what we saw of them last time we saw them play?
There's been a lot of improvement. It's so early for me to say anything, but, I think all the guys that are back are significantly better in one way or another. Some of Michi's decision-making has improved. Zach's had a couple days where he's been really good. Zach Davis, Benjamin Bozeman-Verdak's he's been the catalyst on that second group that he's been on in terms of getting offense moving. And Jacoby Wright has had again a couple weeks where he was really, really, really good. He's probably one of the most improved guys. I think you saw it last year during the season. And then even from the end of the season till now, he's continued to be on the same trajectory, which is moving in the right direction and upward. So I think just generally we've had a lot of improvement. Some of it's just comfortability with who they are, with our system and where they stand. And so because of that, they get out there and they just play.
With a guy like Evo, what's the plan for him going down to the Bahamas, and how do you balance trying to get him game reps, get some of that rust off with not rushing him back from that injury?
Yeah, he hasn't done a lot of live stuff with us. It's a work in progress. He had a significant injury. The Achilles is one of the most time-intensive injuries to come back, and probably one of the most least reliable injuries to recover from in terms of predicting when that will happen. And so every day I'm just waiting for the day that he gets out there. It's going to be an emotional moment for me the first time he puts shoes on and steps out there in a game. He's an incredible young man. He loves the game of basketball like most kids don't. It's why he's in this country. He could have gotten a really good education in a lot of places. He came here for basketball, so I'll really be looking forward to the day that he steps on the court. So it's still a work in progress. He's not there yet, but he's getting better every day.
I know it's still very early, but have you identified the identity for this team, or does a trip like this help you learn it, identify it, or maybe solidify it in some ways or not?
Yeah, a big part of it's this trip. When you talk about leadership qualities of individuals, a lot of that happens on stuff like this. Team identity, which is what you asked about, some of that will happen on this. I know what I want our identity to be, but ultimately it'll be what they do will determine what our identity is. And so for me, our identity has to start on the defensive end. It just has to. There's a way in my blueprint that winning happens very consistently. And it involves good defense. And I've talked about competition and competing a lot of times. And I think what guides you is not only your principles. Being organized is very important on the defensive end, but will is more important than anything, and determination. And so we're still trying to develop that. And a lot of today in this game, guys get picked in college most times. 99% of guys get picked to come to a university or recruited to come to a university because of what they do on the offensive end, right? You don't normally take a guy, if you have a guy that's a 7-footer that blocks shots or an incredible on-the-ball defender, but the vast majority of guys, he shoots really well, he passes well, he can score in the post. This guy's really good at creating for others. He's really good in the ball screen. That's what you take kids for. So then you get them here, and I'm going to say the words, we got to play defense or we're not going to win. And they know they came here for offense, right? So, again, I'm trying to figure out if I'm a very offensive-minded defensive guy or if I'm a really defensive-minded offensive guy. But I know for us, I think it's got to go to the defensive end. We have to be, at minimum, pretty darn good on the defensive end.
All right, Lamont Paris, I think he feels a lot better about things than he did this time last year because at least he knows the guys, and he's brought these guys in, and you know every year in basketball it's going to be practically a turnover of a roster. So relying heavily on the transfer portal, John, he's brought in some good players. Just watching them, I mean, Michi Johnson, I watched him in shooting drills from beyond the top of the key, and he must have knocked down 6 or 7 in a row, just boom, 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 boom. But getting Deba back and healthy would be big for them if they can get him back on the court.
I'm telling you, Gamecock fans, if he can get back out there and get anywhere close to the player he was at Coastal, they get infinitely better. And how's Ebo's life going? This will be, if he gets to travel with USC, and I'm assuming he will, this will be his second trip to the Bahamas in 3 years. Pretty nice deal. But I'm going to implore Steve Fink and everybody in Carolina Sports Information Office, please make Lamont Paris more available to the media. That guy he's one of the top 5 smartest basketball coaches I think I've ever heard. Every time I listen to him talk, it's informative. I learn stuff from him. And I found it interesting, Phil, watching the video you shot during practice. They worked with a 24-second shot clock, not the 30, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Oh, you noticed that, huh?
I did.
I didn't. Glad you did.
I'm just wondering if that's to, try and pick up the pace a little bit.
Probably so.
Push the ball a little bit more. Yep.
I will say they were getting after it. They were playing hard defense. They were trying to make some things happen on offense. I thought B.J. Mack showed his offensive skills. He can stand outside and shoot it for a big guy. I really think Josh Gray looked good. He looks really thin for a guy that came in, I think, a little overweight. They've really toned him up, and looks like his game's improved. He came on strong at times last year. He just needs to be more consistent. He had some really big outings, and then he would disappear. Okay, going to hit the break here on Sports Talk, come back and give you the recruiting report for tonight, and then make way for Major Downer, who tells me he's talking about deer, he's talking about boating, he's talking about alligators tonight. Why we got to talk about alligators?
No.
Why you got to ruin my night?
Running for the hills.
Talking about, I start sweating just saying the word alligators. All right, that's coming up with SC Wild at 7:35, and we'll be back.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you can use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. I have 3 simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal for your desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed and force they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
Hi, this is Major Billy Downer, and coming up tonight at 7:30, it's another edition of SC Wow from the Department of Natural Resources on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
We've got rates worth bragging about. For a limited time, Founders Federal Credit Union is offering our 12-month certificate at 5.04% annual percentage yield, or APY. And our 12-month IRA certificate is at 5.3% APY. Don't miss this opportunity. A $500 deposit is all it takes to make these great rates work for you. Rates accurate as of June 1st, 2023. Stop by any Founders location to open your IRA or certificate today. Or use Founders Online to open a certificate from wherever you are. To learn more, visit foundersfcu.com/dividend-rates. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Membership qualification required. Federally insured by NCUA.
Major Billy Downer here from the Department of Natural Resources, and DNR is excited to announce the implementation of Go Outdoors SC, a new online licensing and boat titling system that you can access right from your phone. Through this new system, customers can purchase their hunting and fishing licenses, renew their boats, apply for lottery hunt opportunities, and complete electronic harvest reporting requirements. For more information, visit Go Outdoors SC at your local app store.
All right, time for the recruiting report tonight, brought to you by Seawells. For the very best in the catering business, you want to give the folks at Seawells a call at 803-771-7385. Check out their website at SeawellsCateringSC.com. They've been serving South Carolina for nearly 80 years with the best in the catering business. Their facility at 1125 Rosewood Drive is special, but they'll come to you if you want to have your event there in your own backyard, or maybe in your man cave. Don't forget the daily luncheon buffet, once again tomorrow, 11 to 2, and a roast beef Friday coming up on Friday. So 2025 defensive end London Merritt out of Atlanta's Woodward Academy. Someone to watch, 6'3", 230. Clemson's all over him, they've offered. He's a former teammate of a Clemson freshman who's in his ear quite a bit, A.J. Hoffler, telling him to follow him at Clemson. The Tigers have offered. He visited in April, and they offered the beginning of June. He has Clemson in his top 12 with Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Florida State, LSU, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Southern Cal, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. And he had a great experience on his visits to Clemson, so Tigers are very much in the mix for him. He'll be back for games this fall. He was named the defensive lineman MVP at the Under Armour Next Future 50 showcase in Florida. Clemson offered 2025 offensive tackle Solomon Thomas of Jacksonville. USC and Clemson 2025 target tight end Logan Brooken was offered by Texas A&M. In basketball, the USC women offered 2025 6'2" Jaliyah Davis of Overland Park, Kansas. Now to the Transfer Portal John report, brought to you by Dumpster Plus. Remember, Dumpster Plus provides a roll-off dumpster and Porta-John in one. It is an absolute thing of beauty. It's an architectural, it's a Rembrandt. It's the Rembrandt of dumpsters. Take a look for yourself or give them a call. 803-500-5094 is the number. Just one note in the portal, John. Things have kind of slowed down, of course, with seasons coming up. People are now going to try and finish where they started for at least a year. But Boston College transferred basketball player DeMar Langford going to visit Central Florida this weekend. His father told Adam Zagoria, a reporter up in the Northeast. So he is on the move, looking at maybe playing for Johnny Dawkins down there at UCF. Okay, that'll do it for regular edition of Sports Talk SC Wild. Major Billy Downer from DNR coming up. He'll be happy to take your questions and your phone calls. We'll be back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Cooler temps than usual for early August. We'll have a low this evening dipping to 69. Tomorrow, cloudy, I am 85. There's a 40% chance of some storms in the afternoon and around dinner time for Friday. Mid-80s again as a high temp, but rain likely on and off throughout the day. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Hi, this is Adam from Aladia's in Lexington. We're open and looking forward to your next visit. Come by and see us for dinner. Not only are we back, so are some of your favorite dishes like chicken marsala, red pepper gouda bisque, and Tuscany chicken. These and so many of your favorite Italian dishes prepared with our homemade family recipes. Come visit tonight for dinner in Lexington at 101 West Main Street. We're eager to help you create a memory at Aladia's. Thank you for all your loyal support.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Some Republican presidential candidates met polling and fundraising thresholds for the first 2024 debate, and now requirements for making it to the second debate will be even higher. A person familiar with the qualifications for the September 27th debate at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library told the Associated Press on Wednesday, candidates seeking to get to the second debate will need at least 3% in 2 national polls, or will need 3% in 1 national poll, as well as 2 polls from 4 of the early voting states, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. The candidates must have at least 50,000 unique donors, up from 40,000 for the first debate, which is August 23rd in Milwaukee. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 348 points. This is SRN News.
Let's be August is here. The hunt is on. Every hunter should start with a visit to Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. For more than 30 years, Shooter's Choice has helped hunters prepare for their favorite season. They have tremendous deals on rifles, scopes, so much more. Isn't it time to check in with the experienced staff of shooters and hunters? And if you're looking for the perfect rifle or shotgun, but you're just not sure, let the experts who actually hunt at Shooter's Choice help you. Make sure that you're zeroed in by visiting their indoor rifle range. Hey, equipment does matter. Don't underestimate what a good scope can do to help you this season. Factory days 11th and 12th. So join Shooter's Choice and Loophole. Find out how to pick the best scope for your needs. Hey, what's the perfect rifle or shotgun? Well, visit with the experts from Beretta Shotguns or Tikka Rifles. Don't hesitate right now on great deals at Shooter's Choice. Make your first choice. Make your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Hey, honey, I know you're taking some meds for cholesterol. I was reading that if you're on these medicines, you should also be taking some CoQ10.
Actually, our pharmacist mentioned that to me already. He called me the other day, and we went through each of our medications together.
Really? He called you?
Yeah, he asked if I was having any side effects, recommended supplements that could help me, and let me know the risk of mixing certain drugs.
Wow. I know that is thinking about us.
True Pharmacy, 1628 Charleston Highway, 3217 Divine Street, or visit truerxsc.com.
It's the Cigar Militia, Columbia's premium cigar store. It's that time of year. It's golf weather. Are you going golfing this weekend? Be the guy bringing the sticks, not the guy that borrows. Come by and refill your humidor, or just pull off the interstate for a smoke and a cold beverage. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help you. You could be a novice or a seasoned veteran. Our friendly staff will walk you through the humidor and answer your questions. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard, next to the Melting Pot.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco, everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/FREE. ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Now on Sports Talk, it's SC Wild with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer is here to take your questions about the great outdoors in South Carolina. Give him a call at 888-898-2525. It's SC Wild from DNR on the Sports Talk Radio Network.
Indeed, always a pleasure to have the Major Billy Downer with us here. SC Wild from DNR on Sports Talk. He always loves to talk with you. If you have a question about something in the great outdoors, maybe you have a question related to policy or the way things are done at DNR or through state government when it comes to hunting and fishing and things like that in South Carolina. He is always happy to take your questions and your comments. And our phone number is 888-898-2525. 888-898-2525. Major Downer, welcome in, sir. How are you?
Always a pleasure, Phil. Another Wednesday night with you, and been a good week in the last week since we talked. Had a big day last week. Thursday, the governor did a ceremonial signing. He'd already actually signed the bill, but he signed the Senate 96, the Boating Safety Act again, and that ushered in what we've already talked about, the new boating safety requirement anyone born after July 1st, 2007 is required now to have boater education before they can operate a boat of 10 horsepower or greater, boat, jet ski, or similar device. So a big day at 200 people there at the lake, at the Columbia Sailing Club. It was a really big crowd, surprised me. Governor and his wife were there. Several senators. Senator Chip Campson was there, who authored the bill, and several representatives. Lots of sheriffs were there. A lot of law enforcement departments were represented, and a lot of people, including families, who had lost loved ones in the last several years on Lake Murray were there as well. So very sobering for them to see this law come to fruition. We've talked about it a lot, but again, just a great day. So 200 people coming out for that is just a really big deal to see that many people come out for something. So it was really good.
I was going to say that there had to be, for people like yourself and others, you've pushed publicly for this, others have pushed publicly for this since that tragedy there on the lake a few years ago. There has to be a great deal of satisfaction for all involved to see this thing finally come to fruition and now be part of the law. And it's a good law. It shouldn't be anything that anybody should frown about. This is a good law that will help everybody, I would say.
Yes, it is. And you're right. And so many people have pushed for this. I mean, I thought it since 2015 when we did the statewide voting meetings across the state, and that's what the public was asking for in those meetings was increased voter education, or a voter education requirement. So we joined about 36 other states with a mandatory voter education. There's somewhere around 46 states that have some type of voter education, but 36 or 7 now that have mandatory. And those are states with big water, most of them all. So, but anyway, again, yes, great to see it. While we're on water, we might as well talk about Labor Day coming up in the next month. I know it's a couple weeks away, but wow, the summer has flown by. And, we're talking about wrapping up the summer, just reminding folks that, one last big hurrah, one big weekend there with hunting coming in, dove season around the corner, deer season literally less than 2 weeks away on the Columbia area, Orangeburg, and then the Low Country. But boating will be, that one big weekend on Labor Day, and just remind folks, don't forget, don't let your senses dull. The fact, hey, we made it through the summer, we're good. It's still one more weekend, big weekend coming up. Let's keep thinking about safety, making sure you got your life jackets on board where you can get to them. They fit everybody. Your lights are working at night, and you have your whistle, your registration straight. Just simple things, but on the safety side, life jackets, whistle, and your running lights. And just remember, always drive defensively. Keep watchful out for everyone else around you, and expect the unexpected, particularly that person falling off of the skis or tube, because it's going to happen before you know it.
Let me ask you.
Need to be prepared for that.
Let me ask you, while you're talking about being on the water and all this. I was over. How familiar are you with the Waccamaw River area, the Wakawachi Marina area? That part of the Intracoastal Waterway. You have much familiarity with that?
I've been there a little bit, but go ahead.
No, I'm just going to ask you some questions. I mean, just being there myself, looking out over there, it seems like a very busy area. One thing I do notice, though, from standing out there is it's a no-wake zone. And from what I can tell, it looks like most boaters, if not all, recognize this and respect it, and they do slow it down and keep their wake. They eliminate their wake, I guess. It's a no-wake zone. They eliminate their wake as they go through that little area. That has to be satisfying to see from your standpoint, because that's something you preach about all the time.
Sure it is, but when you bring up the Intracoastal Waterway, it's something totally. The Intercoastal Waterway, there's people like to use it as a thoroughfare to get back and forth. They don't want to go slow the whole time, and you don't have to, except for the no wake zone portions of it. And you just got to watch out. And the problem is the Intracoastal Waterway is so narrow for much of it, particularly when you get behind the Myrtle Beach area, Waccamaw, you're talking about off the river there. The river comes through, and if you get a lot of traffic, any bit of traffic, it's hard to go wide open when you got 2 or 3 boats in front of you. You've got to slow down, and people just need to understand. You need to be patient. When it's busy out there, it's not worth hurting somebody. And the Intracoastal Waterway is just a great case in point of just slowing it down for congestion in tight areas, even if it is still an area where you can make a wake. Sometimes you got to slow down anyway because of the boats and yield to those other boats. And, and it gets harder as we have so many people using our waterways that are on boats that don't require registration, or paddle boards or kayaks. They can't take a big wake. And I know it's aggravating. You just got to keep slowing down, but it's better than hurting somebody, cause somebody to get hurt or much worse, get killed because of just being negligent. So watch your wake. That's the important point.
And the other thing, too, is I mentioned Wakawachi Marina, which is a pretty good-sized marina, and I guess they have these things up and down the waterway and these rivers. From your travels up and down the rivers and the waterway and all that, what's your experience with the marinas? Do you have a favorite one that you like to kind of stop and hang out with? And the people at the marinas, they just seem like just really cool, laid-back folks who just enjoy being on the boats, enjoy being on the water, and hanging outside on a nice, sunny South Carolina afternoon.
They do, but they're there to service boat owners, and a lot of those marinas have fueling stations. And again, they're real nice until you mess up somebody's boat just trying to fuel. Yeah, and a lot of those marinas are off of the Intercoastal Waterway. Through a ditch, basically. A lot of the marinas are, and that makes it nice. But some aren't. I think of the Swing Bridge a lot right there in the Waccamaw, and the Swing Bridge is, just area congestion. A lot of people is landing right there. And it just, Peachtree Landing is a lot of congestion there, and it's Myrtle Beach. And you see people there just going too fast, not slowing down. And just wish they'd think a little more about that. But that's worth mentioning as we get ready. The show today is about a lot of things. We continue to deal with alligator complaints week to week. We talked about that on our last show. Talked about our alligator biologist about what we're doing and just about how alligators kind of live, how they're a part of our ecosystem. They're not a bad thing. And we remind people, to remember that not every alligator is a bad alligator, but it doesn't take much to make a bad alligator. And feeding is the main problem. And you can be active. It can cause issues. Cleaning fish on the dock is our biggest problem with folks. Alligators get used to that. But again, remember, if you have an alligator issue, you can call our radio room at 1-800-922-5431. That's 1-800-922-5431, and we'll get someone in touch with you about the alligator that can take care of it or at least answer questions for you if necessary.
Chris shared a video before he left us. He shared a video. This isn't about alligators, but he sent me a video. He said, you'll like talking with the Major about this. It's a video of golfers. I don't know where they are. It looks like they're in a mountainous area. And the video picks up where a black bear, has come out of the woods and yanked the golf clubs of one of the golfers off his cart and drags his golf bag with the clubs into the woods. And here's the golfer with his driver in his hands. And he's walking towards that bear in the woods, and he starts screaming at him. And the bear is like protecting the clubs, like, don't come near me, I've got your clubs. And the golfer's like, what do I do? So
well, you know why the bear had his clubs, right?
No.
Because he had food in there. Yeah. He had snacks in there. And that's why the bear grabbed it. They have a tremendous sense of smell. Mm-hmm. The bear didn't need his clubs. He didn't need a 9-iron, I promise. He was looking for that honey bun or that pack of nabs or whatever that guy had that bag on the side.
Yeah.
It smelled good. But that brings up another point. We've talked a little bit about this, but, we've talked about bears in the past and how they act like deer. They run away. And typically that is what our black bear in South Carolina continues to react to humans. But it's important to note they are a large creature, 300 and 400 pounds, that can cause damage and they don't understand the damage they can cause. They're protecting their food. They're protecting their cubs. They're protecting their way out. Sometimes if you get between them and the way out, they may charge you trying to just get away. But it doesn't matter if a bear nips you, it's going to hurt. And it's going to be bad. Obviously they've got canines and they have strong jaws, and no one wants to get bitten by accident, and it doesn't make it all okay just because it's an accident. But we need to remind folks, to keep your distance from bears, keep your trash sealed up. That's the biggest problem in the upstate is folks with trash cans and the bears get into the trash cans, and they are hard workers when it comes to getting into food sources. They'll get into dumpsters. They'll get into your trash can. They'll rip them apart. They'll rip deer feeders apart to get to corn. It's what they do. It's an easy food source for them. So just try to be bear wise on that. But it's hard to believe, but here we are. Literally it's August and we're looking at deer season on the 15th.
Wow.
And that's going to be, in the lower part of our state, Columbia area, down through Orangeburg, Calhoun.
Are you talking about August 15th?
Yes, sir. August 15th, gun season.
Wow.
In Orangeburg County, Charleston County. Yes, sir. It won't be gun season for another good portion of the state until the 1st of September. That's here in Sumter County and on above. But yes, it's going to be deer season in less than 2 weeks. So believe it or not, in this hot weather, people are putting corn out right now for deer. and getting their stands ready. And just want to remind folks, if you're getting ready for deer season, just a couple of quick reminders. When you're checking your deer stands, for safety's sake, make sure that you watch out for poison ivy, poison oak on that tree, on that stand. Check your stand visibly, inspect it for that plant, poison sumac, so it doesn't get you all, if I touch it, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be one big itchy person. It's going to be a mess. And prednisone is my best friend. But also check your stand to make sure it's mechanically sound, structurally sound, and that you shake it and make sure it's visibly, good to go. Make sure screws haven't fallen out, haven't got rusty. Shake it so make sure it's not loose on the tree before you get up in it. And then when you get toward the top, take a can of wasp spray with you. People think that's funny, but it's not. The last thing you want to do is get to the top of the stand in the cramped quarters and a wasp nest come at you. Wasps come to attack you. Because the first thing you're going to think about doing is jumping out that stand. And if your stand's got any height to it, you're going to get hurt. Sprain an ankle, break an ankle. So it's important to clean those stands, inspect them before you go hunting in them, particularly this early in the season. Mosquitoes going to be everywhere. Holy cow. I do not like hunting this early because it's just so hot. Mosquitoes, yellow flies, you name it, wasps, everything's out there. So it's just a big deal to kind of take your time, inspect those stands, make sure they're good to go. And when you go in this kind of weather, when you go in August, you better have a thermocell with you to make sure the mosquitoes are off of it, because it'll be a miserable experience if you're anywhere around wet grass or in pine thickets with pine straw. As much rain as we've had this year, mosquitoes are everywhere.
Now, let me ask you this, talking about the stands. And when I ride down the highways, even down the interstate, through some rural areas, you can look out there, you can see the deer stands, right? How much on a year-to-year basis between one deer season and another? I mean, are they built to last, or what is their breakdown ratio?
That's a good question. I grew up in a day, Phil, when people made stands out of wood, and wood rots, eventually, and nails get loose and those things. But today's stands are mostly made of prefab metal. They slip inside each other. They've got, intersection pieces. But anywhere you've got an intersecting piece on a stand, you've got a weak point. You've got a place that water can gather and rust can form. And anytime metal rusts, it breaks down. And when it breaks down, it gets weak. And when it gets weak, it can break. And even though a stand said, most stands are made for 250 pounds. Well, let's face it, a two-man stand, if you got a 250, 275-pound man and a 100-pound child in there, you're over the weight limit. People are bigger. And so you need to pay attention to those weight limits and just make sure that your stand fits in. And even without that notwithstanding, there's a lot of guys making stands in the backyard, welding things up. They're great stands. Nothing wrong with that at all. But again, anytime you got a weld point, you got a joint between two pieces of metal, you got a place where water can gather. If you get any pinholes, water gets in that metal, because most stands are made of metal tubing, either square tubing or round tubing, most of them metal tubing. So they're hollow. And if water gets inside of that cavity, it will rust. And again, if it rusts, it will break. So I encourage folks to go out to the stands. So how long will a stand last? Under good conditions, probably 4 or 5 years. If you treat them, if you check them, go out there. And I always encourage folks to paint the stands every couple of years, just to put a fresh coat of paint and keep rust from getting on there. Sand that rust off, surface rust off. Put a fresh coat of green paint on there. Check all your spots. I've got stands that I've had for 8-10 years. If you keep a good care of them, they'll last. But you just can't leave one out there unattended. Let limbs and everything grow on it, knock on it, limbs fall on it, bend it, and expect it to withstand the test of time. So most stands are probably good 4 to 5 years. but they should last a lot longer. But it depends on how much you care for them, and that goes into inspecting that stand from top to bottom and making sure it's in good shape. And again, sometimes it's out of your control. A tree can fall, a limb can fall and hit the stand and then break it or weaken it. And you got to pay attention to those things.
Have you heard anything?
And I know people.
I was going to ask you.
I know people that get to the stand like that, though, which I feel.
Yep.
They get to the stand, they're ready to hunt, they hadn't checked the stand out, they get there, and it's bent, they're like, well, I'm sitting here. Okay. So you climb in that stand, you already know it's got a weak point, it's bent. You're asking for trouble. It's not worth that deer hunt. Take your time. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No. I was just going to ask you, we got about 2.5 minutes. With the season opening in the Midlands area, August 15th, have you gotten any reports from your folks about what it looks like out there this year for deer hunting? Is it bountiful? Is it plentiful out there for the hunters?
Absolutely. Great question. I can tell you this. The farmers will tell you it's off the chart. We've probably had more requests this year, or I'm not going to say more than ever, but I would say that this year has been a high request from farmers for what we call depredation permits, which is deer are causing crop damage, and farmers get permits to shoot deer in their fields in the evening when they start getting in the fields. And our officers get permits. They have times they have to, control that time they can shoot, who could be on the permit, those kind of things. We've had a lot of requests for that this year. Again, I'd say it's a high year for that, which indicates that it's a very prolific year for deer. A lot of fawns being dropped, a lot of deer being seen. So if that's any indication, it's going to be a great year. You're going to see a lot of does, you're going to see a lot of deer. If you see a lot of does, you got a chance of seeing a buck. Again, it's not always about the buck. It's about seeing deer, and this is going to be a good year.
All right. As people are preparing, got about a minute left, some quick words of wisdom on preparation. What should the hunters be doing now to get ready for the start of the season? What's the 2 or 3 of the most important things they must have?
Well, make sure you got your big game permit. If you get a license, make sure you got a combination hunting fishing license, which is going to include your big game permit. If you just get a state hunting license or you just buy a fishing license and now all of a sudden you want to go deer hunting, if you got a fishing license, you want to get a state hunting license and a big game permit, because white-tailed deer are part of our big game. So that licensing is required there. You're going to have tags. And now remember, you have to have tags for both bucks and does. And you cannot shoot does, until September 15th. So any tags you have, even though you may receive your tags in the mail, like I did just yesterday in the mail, a lot of folks were receiving the deer tags. Just because you have them doesn't mean you can't use them. You have to follow the directions. Depends on where you are in the state when you can use them. But folks in this area, in the Midlands, September 15th, they'll to start using those doe tags. So keep that in mind. Again, inspect your stands for safety. Look out for wasps. Make sure you clear those out as well. And have fun, but it's going to be a hot one. Before we get back together, it's going to be, it's going to be deer season. So, again, be careful. Be safe. Take a bottle of water with you because you don't want to overheat out there.
Well, when we get back together in 2 weeks, it'll be just getting underway around here in the Midlands. So we'll see if you have been out there and if you've had any success out there.
Absolutely. We'll talk about dove season on our next show, getting ready for the 1st of September.
Sounds great. Have a great couple of weeks, Major. Always a pleasure having you with us, and we'll talk to you later on this month.
Thanks, sir.
That is Major Billy Downer from the Department of Natural Resources here with us on Sports Talk. Always appreciate him being on with us for SC Wild from DNR on Sports Talk. So hopefully you learned something about hunting around the state of South Carolina and getting ready for what should be a fantastic deer season in South Carolina. Back to the somber world of sports. Stuart Mandel just writing about, kind of summarizing everything in college athletics tonight, with the potential moves of schools to other leagues. The Pac-12 is teetering, he writes. The Big Ten is now looking at Oregon and Washington. Florida State is threatening to leave the ACC. We may be on the brink of transformative realignment. How many times have we heard that? Seriously.
Quite a few.
How many times have we heard transformative realignment, only to be transformatively realigned 2 years from now? It may also end with just Colorado and one more school joining the Big 12. So who knows? But I tell you, but here, Pat, Florida State's done this before, haven't they? Haven't their president and their board, their chairman, the board chairman, gone public with their threats to leave the ACC in the past?
And they were hollow threats then. We'll see if they are now.
What do you think? What's your best bet?
My gut is that they stand still, and I think it's funny that the conference is struggling to find new TV deals. It's the lower tier teams that are now threatening to go to these other conferences. Well, if they're struggling to get a deal in their old conferences, is that not going to hurt the brand and the new conferences they're looking to join?
That's a good question. Okay, that'll do it. A lot of Gamecock stuff tomorrow for Media Day. Be with us for that. Look forward to being with you then. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.